A sign of relief at the gas pump? Prices dropped just a little. We'll tell you what analysts say about the future. Mayor Jerry Sanders says San Diegans won't pay more for water next year, even though the city's cost is going up. We'll tell you how he plans to make it all work. I'm Dwayne Brown.
And I'm Peggy Pico. Californians will cast a life and death vote on death penalty reform come November. Coming up, an in-depth report on the moral and financial cost of Proposition 34. And more than 1,000 people attended last night's public meeting on San Onofre's nuclear generating station. We'll hear what regulators and customers say about who should pay for the plant's problems and when it may come back online. Evening Edition starts now.
KPBS Evening Edition is made possible by Joan and Erwin Jacobs and by
Hello, good evening. Thanks for joining us. Gas prices fell in California today. The state average is down by half a penny after a week of double-digit increases. The state average rose more than 50 cents a gallon from October 1st to October 8th. Most analysts believe the worst is behind us since winter blend gasoline is now on the market. State lawmakers are calling for an investigation of the soaring cost. Water rates won't go up in San Diego next year, even though the city's cost is rising nearly 10%. Mayor Jerry Sanders says the Public Utilities Department will absorb the price increase from the County Water Authority. He says the city will cover the cost with funds saved from over the years. San Diego school officials agreed to sell 2 pieces of district property last night to balance the budget. KPBS education reporter Kyla Calvert joins us from the News Center with the details. Kyla, how much money are these sales bringing in, and what were these sites being used for?
The district is selling these properties for just over $19.5 million. One was a former elementary school site in Ocean Beach, and the other was an undeveloped piece of land near the Paradise Hills neighborhood. Now, the district's budget actually includes $25 million this year from property sales. So the board members were considering 3 different sales, but they didn't have the necessary votes to complete the sale on that 3rd piece of land. So they will likely consider selling another parcel of land before the end of the school year to make up that $6 million or so gap that's left. Right.
There's been controversy over these sales. Briefly tell us about that.
Well, Schools trustee Scott Barnett has likened these property sales to someone who sells their organs because they're desperate for money. And so, you know, he's basically challenging the soundness of selling these valuable assets to solve what is a short-term budget problem. And so the property that they did not sell was a site in Mission Beach, which 2 board members opposed because it is such a valuable location. And so what they want to see is the district use these properties that they have that are not used right now and partner with developers to develop them but maintain ownership with long-term leases or joint use agreements and generate revenue over the long term for the district.
KPBS education reporter Kyla Calvert. The former head of a U.S. military team in Libya says the consulate in Benghazi never had enough forces to protect itself. Last month, 4 Americans were killed in an attack on the consulate. Today, Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Wood told a congressional committee security was weak and requests for more personnel were not answered.
In April, there was only 1 U.S. diplomatic security agent stationed there. The RSO struggled to obtain additional personnel, but was never able to attain the numbers he felt comfortable with.
The Obama administration has determined the attack was an act of terrorism. Republican nominee Mitt Romney has criticized the president for his handling of the attack. Now the mother of a Navy SEAL killed in Libya has asked Romney to stop talking about her son. Glenn Doherty was one of 2 former SEALs who died. Romney has been telling voters about sharing a Christmas dinner with Doherty a few years ago in San Diego. But his mother says she doesn't want Romney to make her son part of his political agenda. A spokesman for Romney says the candidate will respect her wishes. San Diego's Budget Committee has okayed $25 million in bonds for various improvements around the city. The money will go towards replacing part of a seawall at Mission Beach, expanding libraries and fire stations, and doing street repairs. The full City Council will consider the bond issue in February. City workers are now 5-0 in winning competitive bids for public projects. The latest victory is a bid for street repairs. It includes reorganizing the street division in the Transportation Department. Mayor Sanders says the city's managed competition program has saved more than $9 million. SeaWorld is planning a new look for its front entrance, but the proposed Explorers Reef is more than just a new look. The park hopes the new design will be more efficient for visitors, too. The plan goes to the State Coastal Commission for approval tomorrow. Construction could start in December if approved. Federal regulators have a lot to consider tonight after a public meeting about the San Onofre nuclear plant in the North County. Hundreds of people showed up to the meeting in Dana Point last night. It was a chance to discuss the latest news on the disabled power plant. Both reactors have been shut down since January after leaks were detected in its steam generator tubes. Peggy Pico finds out what's next.
While San Onofre nuclear power plant sits idle, some at last night's meeting want to know if ratepayers will be paying to fix the steam generators. One of the panelists during last night's discussion said Edison shareholders should pay instead of consumers.
If Edison wants to restart these steam generators, their shareholders can pay for it. If they want to replace them, the shareholders can pay for it. If they continue to lay off workers, their shareholders will be responsible for this, not the state.
Here to talk about what's next and that meeting is KPBS senior Metro reporter Allison St. John. Allison, you were at the meeting. You heard the panelists. Is that indicative of the mood last night?
Yes, it was a very charged meeting, and there were a lot of different viewpoints. Some people were worried about losing their jobs if the plant stays offline. A lot of people were very concerned about safety if it comes back online. And like Rochelle Becker said, a lot of people were worried about who's going to pay for this. Is it going to be the ratepayer who picks up the tab, even though there's no power being generated right now?
Southern California Edison is a private business. So what is it that allows them to pass these costs onto the consumers?
Well, Edison, the operator, is basically saying, look, we are following all the Nuclear Regulatory Commission demands. We're following the law. And in fact, the chief nuclear officer, Peter Dietrich, said at the end of the night last night, if we can't bring this plant back online safely, we'll shut it down. So he was firmly passing the ball into the NRC's court. And I think the thing is that the state agencies have not yet weighed in order to say that they don't feel like this is a cost-effective kind of a way of generating power. So that is where we're at right now. We're waiting to see what the state agencies add to this discussion.
But to be clear, while we're waiting, ratepayers are paying for San Onofre even though there's no energy being generated.
Correct. For the last 10 months, we have been paying for these new steam generators, which have failed.
All right. The California Energy Commission also joined the panel last night, and they talked about plans to whether they were going to keep the lights on in the state through next year. And let's just listen to what they had to say.
Right now we're engaging in looking forward to the summer of 2013. Our planning process doesn't assume that the San Onofre unit is up and going in any matter. We have to make a contingency plan that assumes the power is not there and do the workaround on that.
Did that seem to say to you and or the audience there that they're planning on not bringing the power plant back online next year?
So nobody has actually said that officially, and the agencies that are planning, like the cut that we just heard, are saying we have to, if we're wise, plan for the option that the plant won't come back online. So it's not official at this point. And the NRC is saying there is no timeline on safety. And in the meantime, the critics are saying, look, we don't trust either Edison or the NRC, and we want an independent review, which is something that the NRC says the board is still considering. However, there's no timeline on that either.
So no timeline on it. The critics are saying we want an independent review. What's the problem with an independent review? I mean, why are they fighting that?
Well, it's very unusual, I think, for an agency to say, yes, we will accept an independent review of what we just did. And so the chances that the NRC will actually agree to an independent review seem somewhat slim, even though they say they have not yet dismissed it out of hand. And then the other question is, Is it an independent review of what's happened? And what about the future? What about the restart? Should there be an independent panel and a complete license amendment before they agree to let the plant be restarted?
And talking about the independent panel, it's kind of like you and I were talking about asking the tobacco companies to do an independent research study on how tobacco affects them. It's that sort of insider looking at yourself.
That's why it seems like until perhaps another agency or someone like Barbara Boxer steps in, she's been overseeing this process from the federal level, that the procedure will just go along as Edison and the NRC procedures would dictate, and that would probably suggest that there will be a restart unless another agency steps in and says, look, this isn't cost effective or this isn't safe.
Any more public meetings?
There will be plenty more public meetings. The next one is the California Public Utilities Commission, which will be meeting at the end of this month to consider whether to start the process of looking at if ratepayers should be held responsible for this replacement of the steam generators when they're not actually generating any power and haven't done for more than 9 months.
All right, Allison, we look forward to you continuing to follow this. Folks at home can get more information about this on our website. Thanks a lot.
We want to set the record straight tonight on something we broadcast last week. We incorrectly said mayoral candidate Carl DeMaio said he never met with the publisher of UT San Diego. In fact, the candidate did say he had a meeting with the UT editorial board. Our investigation found DeMaio also met with the newspaper owner, Doug Manchester, on at least 2 other occasions. California voters will make a life or death decision in November when they vote on Proposition 34. It would repeal the death penalty at a time when executions are declining and capital punishment has been on hold in California. KPBS reporter Tom Fudge says there are still passionate believers on both sides of the issue.
This month, at least a dozen religious leaders gathered at the First Methodist Church in Mission Valley.
California is going to be a beacon on the hill.
The star of the gathering was Sister Helen Prejean, the Louisiana nun and death penalty opponent who wrote Dead Man Walking.
A lot of times we ask the question, who deserves to die? Well, we got to ask the flip question, who deserves to kill them? Do you? Do I? Do we as a society? No, it diminishes life.
The group was religiously diverse, but on the question of the death penalty, they all urged a vote for Prop 34 to repeal the death penalty in California.
Islam is pro-life. Islam is for promoting lives and making the society, the community, safer.
I think there are many punishments that can go along with redemption and rehabilitation that do not extinguish the hope that every human being deserves.
The punishment that would replace the death penalty under Prop 34 would be life in prison without the possibility of parole. Among the people who see that as a better way include Ronnie Carmona. In 2008, her son Arthur was killed by a man who ran over him with his car. But Carmona said she never wanted to see the offender put to death. She says the obligation is paid through years in prison.
I felt the person should spend the rest of their life in prison. For me, that's justice. And I know a lot of people talk about, well, the death penalty is closure. There's never any closure when you lose a loved one that way.
Prop 34 is backed by diverse groups of people that include religious leaders and former law enforcement officials. They argue that no justice system is good enough to guarantee that no innocent person would ever be executed. The state legislative analyst says repealing the death penalty would save California up to $100 million every year, mostly in court costs. One reason many victims' families see no closure in the death penalty lies in its history. Since California reinstated the death penalty in 1978, the state has condemned nearly 900 people to death. It has executed only 13. This subject came up at a legislative hearing on Prop 34. There, former L.A. District Attorney Gil Garcetti said the state's inability or unwillingness to actually execute people was good reason to abolish capital punishment.
The system is broken, it's dysfunctional, And underline this, it cannot be fixed.
But not everyone accepts the argument that the death penalty should be abolished simply because the state has failed to make it work, bogging it down, they argue, with cost, red tape, and appeals. Kermit Alexander's mother and younger sister were both murdered, and he wants the death penalty fixed.
What we need to do is figure out, we have the brains and we have the money, we need to figure out the most expeditious way to get it done and get it done.
Daniel Lamborn agrees. He's Chief Deputy District Attorney for San Diego County. In the 1990s, he prosecuted Cleophas Prince, who was found guilty of sexually assaulting and murdering 6 women. Prince was sentenced to death in 1993, but today, 19 years later, he's still alive in San Quentin. When asked why he still supports the death penalty, Lamborn tells us to imagine someone who commits 1 rape and murder.
Well, here's somebody else who does that not once, not twice, but 6 times, where he terrorizes and essentially tortures and kills and sexually assaults women. Are 5 of those murders free ones, where he doesn't do 1 more day in custody, no more punishment for 5 of those 6 women that were killed? He would have gotten life in prison for the 1. And so we tell him, send the message out to the community, hey, once you do 1 murder, you might as well do a dozen, because there won't be 1 more day in custody for that.
California death row inmates are much more likely to die of natural causes than execution. They typically stay on death row for more than 20 years. Lamborn says given the political will, California can speed up the appeals process. But in the end, the issue for both sides isn't about cost or delays. It's about doing what's right.
When we have the DNA, when we have soil samples, fiber samples, every aspect of science coming in and saying, this guy did it. And when we have a monster, why not do justice? Why not do justice?
We look at the death of an innocent Jesus on a Roman cross, and we learn 2 things. 1, human beings are incapable of discerning ultimate innocence or guilt. And 2, even in the face of guilt, God calls us to grace. Thank you.
As we've just seen, much of the debate over whether or not to reform California's death penalty through Proposition 34 revolves around moral issues. But court costs and execution delays are some of the arguments for and against this state ballot measure. Paul Kaplan, professor of criminal justice at the SDSU School of Public Affairs, is here to talk about the practical concerns of capital punishment. Paul, thanks for being here.
Hi.
Let's review a little bit. What will change precisely if Prop 34 passes in November?
So the first thing that would happen is all of the people sentenced to death, their sentences would be converted to life without the possibility of parole. No parole. They'd get life sentences. Secondly, those prisoners and all future people that are convicted of first-degree murder would be doing a work program while in prison, which would pay money into a restitution fund for the victim's family. And then finally, the money, the $100 million would be saved by basically for the appeals, would go into cold case investigations for unsolved murders and rapes.
And this is also retroactive.
It's retroactive, right? So everybody already on death row would get converted to life without parole.
Okay, specifically, let me explain who we're talking about and what the situation is right now. Since California reinstated the death penalty in 1978, just under 900 people have been condemned to death. 13 have been executed. There are 724 men and 19 women awaiting execution by lethal injection or by gas. However, there hasn't been an execution in California, Paul, since 2006.
That's
How
right.
come?
Right now we're in a legal moratorium because of a California judge's concern about lethal injection. The lethal injection method is a 3-chemical process, an anesthetic, and then a paralytic, and then a chemical that kills you. And the concern is that the person wouldn't get the anesthetic. They would just get they would be paralyzed and then killed, which would be painful, which would be an 8th Amendment violation. So this concern is what's driving the current moratorium, in addition to all of the long appeals that hold up all of the death sentences in California.
In addition to issues like that, why does it cost so much to keep a prisoner on death row or ready for execution?
The main cost is the cost of the appeals. People are concerned about the possibility of executing an innocent person. They're concerned that the death penalty be fair. And so we've put resources, some resources, into the appellate process to ensure that those things don't happen. But we don't have enough money to pay all the appellate attorneys. Only about a third of those 700 people on death row have even had their state appeal confirmed, meaning they haven't even gone into the federal system yet. It's just too expensive to pay for the appeals. That's the basic problem.
Wouldn't people still be appealing if they got a conviction and a penalty of life in prison?
Yes, but it wouldn't be automatic. The law states that it's an automatic appeal. You're guaranteed an appeal by the law. So once you're sentenced to death, you don't get a lawyer right away, but you're on a list, and eventually you'll get a lawyer because the actual statute declares that you have an automatic appeal to the state Supreme Court and into the federal system.
Analysts of this proposition say about 100 million up to 130 million a year could be saved. That'll go into that fund that you had mentioned earlier. How does that savings, or how does the cost of death row compare to keeping somebody in prison for life, including the aging population and medical concerns?
So it's intuitive that you'd think it would be less expensive to execute somebody. That's sort of the intuitive idea. However, because of the cost of the appeals and the conditions of death row are single cell, guys are housed in a single cell, and the security apparatus is more strict, basically, so it's more expensive. But the real expense, again, is the appeals. And not that many guys who are just doing prison sentences, even life sentences, are doing appeals. So it's that huge amount of money going into the appeals that explains the huge difference in cost.
What do the polls say right now as far as where this proposition stands?
My understanding is that the most recent polling shows it pretty close to neck and neck. And I don't actually have the number in front of me, but I think it's just about neck and neck.
All right. What could make voters decide one way or the other? Exactly.
So I think that California is ambivalent about the death penalty. People like the idea in the abstract. If you ask somebody, do you like the idea of the death penalty? Sure, I do. Once that person is exposed to the truth about the way the institution operates, that they become ambivalent about it. And I think the ambivalence is driven by concern over, as I said, innocence and fairness. And I think that the more that the Prop 34 campaign can emphasize that and the public safety part of the message, which is that it's going to put all this money into trying to solve cold cases, I think those are probably the messages that might convince people.
All right. Professor Paul Kaplan, thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you.
Bicyclist Lance Armstrong wanted the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency to name names and show what it had on him. Today it did, naming 11 of his former teammates as key witnesses. Murrieta cyclist Floyd Landis was among them. The report accuses Armstrong of using performance-enhancing drugs to fuel his victories, and it says he expected his teammates to do the same. Armstrong was stripped of his 7 Tour de France medals or titles. He still insists he never cheated. The Weather Service says we've got some cooler temperatures ahead for the rest of the week with a bit of rain in the mix, too. Here's a look at the forecast. Special delivery to the International Space Station today, the first one by California-based company SpaceX. Its Dragon capsule arrived with half a ton of supplies, including some chocolate vanilla swirl ice cream. Yum for the astronauts. Meals on Wheels recently completed construction on its new Meal Center kitchen near Old Town. The program has been providing San Diego seniors with nutritious food since the early 1970s. Now, they're in need of more volunteers to help serve the growing baby boom population.
Because it can fit in everyone's schedule. Just a couple minutes a day, a couple hours a week, that's all it takes.
Patty Geis has been volunteering with Meals on Wheels in San Diego for 6 years now and says it all goes back to her early childhood and a newspaper article.
And they talked about that some seniors weren't getting fed and were going without food because there weren't enough volunteers to be able to fill that need.
Geis also recalls when Meals on Wheels delivered to her grandparents when she was growing up in Chicago.
And I had made a decision that day that I could volunteer because I had not only seen it for one grandparent, but actually both of my grandparents in Chicago. So that's when I started to volunteer and haven't stopped since.
The daily work at the Meals on Wheels kitchen didn't stop either during a 3-month remodel, transforming a small, cramped space into a new commercial kitchen, fulfilling their goal to control costs and provide flexibility in creating more healthy meals.
We couldn't do it in the past because our sandwich room was far too small. We need volunteers to help in the kitchen now.
Debbie Case is the CEO for Meals on Wheels in San Diego County.
There's shifts from like 9 to noon or 9 to 1. So if you have that time during the day, even one day a week, it could truly help us out.
The program provides 2 meals a day for 2,300 seniors throughout San Diego County. And in January, we'll add a new healthy Latin cuisine to its menu offering.
Meals on Wheels is here so no senior goes hungry, and that's what we're about.
For more information on how you can help or volunteer, go to their website, meals-on-wheels.org. Recapping tonight's top stories, gas prices fell in California today. The state average down by half a penny after a week of double-digit increases. The state average actually rose more than 50 cents a gallon from October 1st to October 8th. Most analysts believe the worst is behind us since winter blend gasoline is now on the market. Meanwhile, state lawmakers are calling for an investigation of the soaring cost. Water rates will not go up in San Diego next year, even though the city's cost is rising nearly 10%. Mayor Jerry Sanders says the Public Utilities Department will absorb the price increase from the County Water Authority. He says the city will cover the cost with funds saved over the years. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.